I'm sitting here dazed about what I just watched. Like, first of all, it took me a couple days to finish it. I kept starting, finishing, falling asleep on it. And I wanted to make sure that I watched every minute of it. I didn't want to, I can sometimes kind of half watch something. Like I'll watch it, be kind of doing other stuff or whatever. But I wanted to really pay attention before I put together a response on here about this. And as I said before, as a projector in human design, I try to make sure I observe a bit before I just sort of respond. There's some things I'll jump right on, but other things I kind of want to observe for a bit. And I've seen the talk the last few days about it, you know, all the think pieces and whatnot. And I feel like something that's really missing from all this discourse, like people are immediately hopping to, oh, you know, Puff is a monster, he's this, and, you know, I hate to say it, but that's how I feel as well, he's a monster. Like, you know, I said here on a previous video, that my goal here is not to be sensational. It's not at all. I want to give perspectives that are maybe a little bit different from what the mainstream is sort of taking on some of this stuff, or that just to kind of make people think about things from a different perspective. And I feel like what's really missing from this discourse is about the effects that parenting has on us. And I've seen over the last few years, when all this drama first really came up and people started really pointing fingers, Jaguar Wright specifically, we've been hearing about, you know, these strange stories between Puff and his mom, Janice. And I feel like she was visible throughout different clips of him dealing with various legal run-ins he'd have. You see her standing with him at the podium, talking his way out of the next thing, or bullshitting his way out of, you know, telling people he didn't do anything wrong and trust him and all this other stuff. She's there standing beside him. Almost always, you see in those clips, his mom is right there. And I'm not here to really point a finger at his mom because I don't know all the details, but my gut tells me enough. And what I have heard tells me enough. That as much as he is the monster that he is today, that monster was created. Like, let's keep it real. One of the guys in the documentary, I can't remember if it was Kirk or... one of them said that when they were kids, that his mom would like beat the shit out of him, basically. Like really, really go in, you know? I guess to kind of keep him tough. I guess she knew he had that sort of he had that feminine side of him, and she wanted to try to check it and correct it when in the absence of his father, you know? And I feel like that's missing from the discourse about all of this, because in a large way, people don't want to deal with it. You know, it's easy just to point the finger at, oh, Puff is a monster, Puff is this. And like I said, he is, but what created this monster? And then from there, if that monster was created, many more monsters have been created, will be created. You know, it's like, it's a pattern. And what I want us to do is to look inward. As much as we're pointing the finger at these people, let's look inward and make sure that we're not creating more of these monsters. Like, what do we need to do differently in our community, in all communities, to be honest? Like, what do we need to do as a society to stop creating these monsters? Because that's what it is. They're created. Like, let's be honest. We all have dark sides that we have to manage and maintain. Well, most of us, you know. And obviously, his were not put in check. They weren't. He was allowed to believe that he was this special thing. And let's be honest. I mean, considering what he was able to accomplish, there is something special about this man. Like, his accomplishments point to the fact that there is something special about him, clearly, but he was not checked as that ego was being boosted, as that ego was being inflated, as that ego was being stroked. I said on one of my very first videos on this platform, it was about him. And it was about the fact that people, when they're trying to advance their careers, if they find that there's a personality or a force that they feel like can get them there, they will turn a blind eye to all kinds of stuff. They will turn a blind eye to all kind of stuff. And it's obvious, as we saw here, even the Little Rod story, like I've been hearing Little Rod for the last couple years. I never looked any deeper into it other than what I was hearing on the various shows I would watch or see or whatever. I would hear about this Little Rod. Well, in this documentary, they had Little Rod on there. So I was able to see Little Rod, and hear Little Rod's perspective and, all this other stuff. And I heard somebody say, or was talking about the fact that Little Rod, when a situation happened at one of the recording studios where Little Rod was at with them, he knew somebody had gotten shot. He went, helped apply pressure to the wound, helped basically to clean up the situation so that he could go get back in the booth. Like, what? But this is what happens. And again, not to point a finger at Lil Rod. I'm not here to judge Lil Rod. Apparently Lil Rod had a lot of screwed up things happen to him in the process of being connected to Puff. But it just goes to show how people will turn a blind eye. And even from his upbringing, too much was ignored. Too much was ignored. There's so many of these monsters out here just like him because of bad parenting. And we got to be honest about it. And a lot of times, let's be honest, it's those situations where the father is absent. Now, I understand his father got killed, but even aside from that, like, it's just also about proper discipline for kids, proper boundaries. It's really sad what I watched. Like, I just kept thinking to myself, like, obviously this guy, because to be successful at something, almost anything, takes a lot of drive, focus, determination. Now, obviously, he did a lot of manipulating folks along the way. Obviously, we see that. That's all throughout his modus operandi, is that he manipulates people. I'm at a loss of all of this because you can barely listen to any song. Same with R. Kelly. You can barely listen to any music from the 90s and early 2000s without hearing him, either in the song or he had a connection to the group. Almost anything that was hot in that era, he had a connection to. I mean, so many artists, is crazy. And all the while, he was doing all of these vile things that people just turned a blind eye to. And all the while, his mom is right there. And let me tell you something. If there's one thing parents know, is they know when your ass is running afoul. They know, especially a mom. Especially a mom. A mom knows when you are off track. So he was doing all this stuff. His mom was right there. We hear these stories of crazy stuff with him and his mom. And it's like, this is about bad parenting. That's what this is about. I hate to say it, but that's what it's about. And I want us, instead of just pointing the finger at these people, please, let's look inward. Let's make sure we are checking ourselves. Let's make sure we're checking ourselves about how we're preparing future generations, or else we will constantly have more and more and more and more of these monsters. We are in an age of such selfishness. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Now, I hope that as things evolve astrologically, that some of this will lessen. We'll get more. And I hate to use the word collectivism because I don't even know if it's necessarily that so much as it is just community spirit, community care, community consideration. Like, I just think so many problems could be solved if we had better, more cohesive communities, but everything's so diced up and divided and, me. It's really quite disgusting. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's really quite disgusting. So I watched this, the Kirk Burroughs guy. He said at one point he thinks that Puff is soulless. And, I can't speak to that. I don't know. Who are we to say something like that? But to say that you've been around somebody who is empty, who is so detached that they don't seem like they know how to form good emotional connections, I can believe that. I think we've all experienced that, And a lot of that stuff that was in the documentary, I'd already heard, But it was another thing to see it spoken out of the mouths of the people who experience this stuff. Like a lot of stuff I read in articles or on different vlogs or, whatever I hear people talking about. But it was another, like Capricorn Clark, that was the first time I seen her, Or somebody else in there. I've seen Roger Bonds before. There's a few people who I've seen before already, but that was the first time I seen Capricorn Clark. And so just seeing it all packaged up made it more real, from having heard the stories from vloggers or reading articles or blogs about it. So that's what made it like, damn, this is really crazy. This stuff really was going down like this. And it just showed how people will turn a blind eye. We have to stop this. You cannot be so willing to climb the ladder that you will turn a blind eye. You have to maintain your moral compass. You have to maintain your moral compass, I promise you, because there's so many pitfalls and so many things waiting to test you, to challenge it, to see whether you're going to really stick to it. And you have to do it, my friends. You have to do it. Things will pop back up on you years later. You thought you got away with it. Just don't do any of that stuff. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. We only get so many years to live on this earth. So many years. You want to make sure you're working hard to make those years good, memorable years, not any crap, not any BS. Because the years go quickly. They go so quickly, your head will spin. So I do hope people will watch the documentary. I don't know, dear viewer, I don't know if you've seen it or if you're just kind of trying to figure out if you want to watch it. I would suggest you watch it. I think everybody should. I think even people who've heard all the stories that are in there, there's probably going to be something in there you hadn't heard. Like the one gigolo, oh God, what he said they were doing with his love juices, I can't even hardly believe it. Like, what kind of freaky, like, what? Like, come on, guys. Like, people, we've taken some of this stuff way too far. wait, and I'll be honest, even all of that is a symptom of ego and success left unchecked. That's just what it is. Like, it's when you start achieving things and people are telling you yes at every turn and everything you attempt is working out. Sometimes some people can't handle that. Some people don't process that very well. Some people don't understand. Some people don't understand that does not then mean that they are gods, that they are above the law, that they can get away with whatever. I mean, it happens in so many environments, everything from government to business to large cities, medium-sized cities, small towns. It just happens in the human condition that people left unchecked will go too far. It's crazy. As I'm thinking about all this, I'm like, damn, this really was like that raw footage. And the ego. He had these cameras following him around because he knew he was doing great things. You know, when you get to that place where you're like, okay, I want people taking some shots of me as I'm working. you got something going on here. You know, you got something going, something cooking up, you know? So he had the people following him around, capturing footage, that very footage is what now has put him bare, laid him bare on this screen for us to see him in action, trying to solve this thing that he's done, that he knew he was guilty of, but he was trying to rally the troops, calling at Kalina to get her to give a statement on his behalf. Calling anybody to get them to give a statement on his behalf, just pressuring people to speak up for him, even though they had just asked him to do something for them and he said no. Like, Lil Rod put that whole Love album together for him, and then he, sashaying around talking about he was nominated for a Grammy and didn't give this guy $29,000 when you know he had it. It's like that's the ego that just goes unchecked. And when that ego goes unchecked, anything is possible. Anything is possible when an ego is left unchecked. So yeah, I hope everybody watches it. People need to see what that looks like. People need to see, and this is only a glimpse. Like, this is like what we see in this thing is nothing compared to what was going down. Like, it's nothing. Like, nothing. I've seen some interviews over the last couple years about what was going down with him and Cassie and so many other women, that the documentary barely scratched the surface of the information that's out there. Barely scratched the surface. I don't know. I'm just appalled because he really had such a big impact on music. Again, just like R. Kelly. And now, forever, his name is going to be tarnished. And people are going to try to say, oh, I don't listen to that. I was watching this podcast the other day, and the guy was like, somebody in the comments asked the guy, like, what's your favorite Diddy song? And he was like, none. I don't know any Diddy songs. And I'm like, you lie. Like, there's some Diddy songs. There's so many because he just forced his way into everything. He said, there's one point in the documentary where he said that Andre Harrell told him, you need to be basically in the driver's seat. You need to have control of everything. You need to be present. You need to know what's going on. And then for a lot of that, I agree. However, again, that ego was unchecked. And I promise you this, an ego left unchecked is going to go too far every single time. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So we got to check our own egos. Be honest with the people around us when we see they're going too far. Check ourselves about parenting. You know, I don't have any children, but I was a child. I am a child of somebody. And I know what my experiences were and have been. And I think we all know what our experiences were and have been in those situations. Maybe things could have been done differently. And that goes for everybody. So I'm not pointing a finger at any one person. I think the one thing about parenting is that people will joke that there's no manual, that you kind of just got to go through it. Well, of course, there's all kinds of books, self-help books and stuff out. But I do feel for parents that it is something that you just have to kind of figure out. But there are some basic truths about decency and character and truth and honesty and all of those things that anybody knows is good standards for living. You don't need a book to tell you that you don't want your child to think they're better than everybody else. Of course you want them to be confident. Of course you want them to feel capable. But to think that they need to be able to step on other people to achieve what they want, that's crazy. But this is where we are as a society. So this is not isolated to his mom or anybody in his circle. This is about society. And so until we all collectively check ourselves and one another when we're on this BS, we're going to see more of him. Just like we saw in R. Kelly, just like Harvey Weinstein. It's so many of them. It's so many of them. And honestly, one of the greatest factors is that as somebody achieves more success, to be honest, I feel like that's when you need more people checking you on your shit. Because the more power you amass, the more you believe you can overcome anything. And that's crazy. That's the danger zone. That's the danger zone. A lot of people can't navigate that zone. It's rough waters. And some people are going to be skilled and capable of navigating through that. Other people are going to go too far. They're going to go a little too far out in those waters. They're going to go a little too far. They're going to get too arrogant. They're going to see that as you go a little bit further out there, there's going to be a little bucket of goodies out there. If you just go a little bit further out there, you can grab that bucket of goodies. But you got to be willing to go a little bit further out into those choppy, dangerous waters. Some people go out there and they have no business going out there. Other people know instinctively just not to go. I don't know, my friends. It looks like, at the very least, the covers are being thrown back on some of this behavior. I see people saying, they're just going after the black man, but Harvey Weinstein is in jail. Kevin Spacey is out here begging for roles and, retribution to be brought back into Hollywood's warm bosom. There's a lot of them are being called out. It's definitely happening. Is it happening at the level it needs to be to really eradicate all of these demons and monsters? No. But is something happening? Yes. Absolutely something is happening. And we gotta be honest about that. We see it. It's happening. Like it's real. It's really real. So I just wanted to kind of just leave a few nuggets that hopefully people will think through. Just a few nuggets. I'd love to know what people think. What is your take on all of this? Do you feel like his mom is sort of getting away with having created this monster and not being called to account? Do you think his mom has anything to do with who he is as a person today? Or do you think this is just all just, his own doing and his own, how he is just how he is because of who he is? What do you think about people around him who just turned a blind eye? The Little Rod story, I couldn't believe it when he was you growing up in the hood, you see people getting shot. I'm like, no, brother. No. No, 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 no. We're not going to do this. This is not just about being in the hood. This is about you were fixated on your goal of advancing your career. And again, no judgment, but that's what happened. Like, let's be honest. Let's not sit up here and try to rewrite history. You did it because you were focused on your career. That's why you did it. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is gonna be on my mind for a little bit here. Apparently, there may be another part coming out. I don't know what that's gonna be about, but there may be another part that's gonna be released. And the footage that they have is so damning. It's crazy. It's crazy. And he's in there, looking like he's stressed the hell out because he knew they were hot on his tail. He was trying to make excuses like, oh, everybody wanted to be there. No, you were manipulating and coercing these people, drugging folks. Like, people didn't just want to be there. Don't do that. And that's the thing about those types. They're very masterful at planting the language they want you to then repeat in your head. You got to be very thoughtful that you don't just start repeating what they've basically fed you to repeat. Oh, it's a crazy thing to witness. It's a crazy thing to witness. So just be thoughtful, my friends. Be thoughtful. I would definitely love to know what you think in the comments. And I appreciate this sort of content. I'm glad I finally got through it because I got some other shows I want to watch. I also want to talk about some other shows and stuff on here as well, different perspectives I have about a lot of this stuff. I just feel like sometimes they bury things. Like, even in the documentary, they kept showing his mom, but it wasn't really a lot of discourse about her. But it was clear she was always there. She was always right there. And to me, it's not cool that she just sort of gets to get away with not being called out for having created this monster that we're all dealing with today. That's it. Anyway, thanks for stopping by here. I'd love to see you in the comments. Peace.